Welcome to Totally Teal in Bite-Sized Chunks, our podcast series of conversations between Giles Hutchins, Sarah Morris and Chris Rue, taking you through the essential need-to-know elements about TEAL, or Next Stage Organisational Thinking. Before we get stuck into our chats, we'll just take a moment to introduce ourselves. Following this, we turn our attention to the content of our first podcast, The Case for Change. But first, over to me, Chris.
Hi guys, it's really great to be here today to have a chance finally to talk about our passion, which is TEAL and Next Stage Organisational Thinking. My name's Chris Rue, I'm part of Parallax Partnership, and we've been working in coaching and the industry of organisational development for the last 15 to 20 years, since 2001 in fact. In the last 2 to 3 years, since 2014, we've been really focusing a lot of our attention on the work of Frederic Laloux and this idea of next stage organisational thinking. So we thought we'd put this string of podcasts together to elaborate on that, and it also take this opportunity today just to introduce ourselves. So Chris Rue, the Parallax Partnership, and my colleague Sarah Morris.
Hi, my name's Sarah. Thank you, Chris. So I'm also a partner with Parallax Partnership, and I've been coaching now for about 16 years. I became particularly interested in TEAL about 2 or 3 years ago, noticing increasingly leaders coming into the coaching suite frustrated, exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed by constant reorganisations, and far too often it began to feel to me that I was just patching people up to go back outside and survive another round of what I came to call organisational abuse, actually. And it was rather dispiriting, feeling that really there was an underlying intractable problem that we couldn't quite get to the bottom of. But having come across Laloux's work and understanding that there is a system at play and that fundamental system is broken, and what I was actually witnessing were the symptoms of that, brought me to investigate and look into TEAL much more deeply and begin to work with organisations who were also noticing the same problem. And so we've been working with organisations now for the last 2 or 3 years, folks interested in taking this developmental journey. So that's really my story, why I'm here and why I'm so interested in helping organisations move to the next stage.
Thanks, Sarah. Giles.
So yes, I'm chair of the Future Fit Leadership Academy. I've been working with Parallax for some time now. I've spent really the last 10 years focusing on how organisations can take inspiration from living systems, that really the shift from organisations machine to organisations living systems. So I've worked with TEAL, evolutionary work, Theory U, lots of different models, and also my own work around leadership and organisational development, what I call regenerative leadership. My background, KPMG for many years, and Global Head of Sustainability for a multinational, and now published author of 3 different books essentially looking at this space around the new norm. So really great to be in conversation with Parallax on this, to be exploring Totally Teal. What a fascinating yet challenging time to be a leader. There's so much changing and at such pace. What we now face is a new norm on so many levels, a new business context that demands a new kind of organisation.
You know, you're right, Giles. For years now, so as coaches, we've been experiencing the world of work in, well, in my words, a frustrating manner. We've been patching people up and teams and putting them back into a workplace that is effectively part of a fundamentally broken system. And there hasn't been, up until now, any real alternative. But that is now changing, and there is a new operating system available to us, which offers a significantly different way of working. Now, what I'm seeing, and I know you and Sarah are seeing, that this leads to significantly improved performances. And crucially, it does result in a more fulfilled, energised and empowered way of experiencing the workplace. That system is known as TEAL thinking, or next generation thinking is a term that I think most people seem to prefer. This is, if you like, the new Mac, a real alternative in place of the old PC. And all based on 3 very simple principles. Get clear on purpose, support the whole person, and really embrace self-management. More of that later.
I love what you were saying there about kind of moving from the old PC to the new Mac. It is actually as almost as if we need to upgrade the very operating system that we've been working on for so long to a completely and fundamentally different one which has a functionality more closely attuned and able to respond to the demands that are being placed on organisations today. So if I was to come back to your point, Chris, the point you made earlier, the kinds of recurrent, intractable problems we see in working with leaders in the coaching suite every day, overwhelm, stress, frustration, and whilst being enormously significant in their own right, we believe are actually only symptoms of the underlying broken system.
Yep, I agree, Sarah. There's a fundamental shift going on, really, from a business paradigm that's rooted in a scientific management theory that served us well in the industrial era, a certain reductive and mechanistic logic that sees the organisation as a machine that, quite frankly, has had its day. It's well beyond its sell-by date. A new logic is now coming through, and I remember the famous quote, really, from the management guru Peter Drucker, who said that in times of turmoil, the danger lies not in the turmoil itself, but in facing it with yesterday's logic.
What a great quote. And I always, when I think about this problem, I do find it very useful to try and understand why we are where we are now. Why are we in such of a desperate need of a complete rethink on how we work and do business that helps us see not only the root cause of the problems, but also helps clearly signpost the way to what we need to do to solve the problem. Let's face it, I think we'd all agree that businesses, or many businesses, are at breaking point because the structure and the systems which underpin the way we work are inflexible. They lack responsiveness and they lack pace. And we also know that in order to succeed going forward as organisations, we need to lead our businesses toward greater agility. We need to bring about for ourselves and our organisations a completely new way of leading for a new kind of world.
We hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and in our next one, we'll be looking at the organisational shift from machine to living system. If you would like to keep in touch with Totally Teal and would like to receive a free transcript of this podcast, then please subscribe by clicking the button on our Totally Teal channel on Podbean. Until the next podcast. Bye.